Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to be finding some alternative ways to use these shadow dies. Now, these ones, this is not specific to this die set at all. I just want you to have a look in your stash, see what you've got, and I've also got some alternatives. Now, this is the Let's Celebrate word dies from scrapbook.com. You could also use anything that has words, basically. Now, the Gina K ones, this Waffle flower one has the think and the you, that would work easily too. I also have another one that is from Gina K that you could also use. Anything that is going to have words, you could create this gorgeous card today. Now, I am just going to use the happy birthday one because I think this is going to make a bright and cheerful birthday card. And out of the top two dies, now this is what I'm going to be using today. Down the bottom it says Let's Celebrate, and then of course it has the die that goes along with it. And up the top has the happy and the birthday, and the happy and the let's words in these ones are all individual, whereas the birthday and the celebrate are all joined together. So I just want the happy, the one that is all individual. You can see how it would layer in there nicely for our shadow die, but that's not the main focus of today, but I will use it later on. And this is a super duper simple card, but just a really fun one to put together and something a little bit different. Now, I have gone ahead and die cut that word happy up there just lots and lots and lots of times. Now, I just, went down the page, die cut it out over and over again. I didn't necessarily count how many I had. I did that, I don't know, 8 or 10 times maybe. And this is what I am left with. All these gorgeous little letters. Now, if you wanted to skip a step, you could by all means die cut these out of some coloured cardstock. And that would mean you could skip this step. I am going to colour these myself. I am using some 4-inch wide mint tape, and this is just going to hold the letters in place whilst I colour them. Now, this is obviously a super quick process. It doesn't take too long at all. I was anticipating maybe 4 or 5 colours. I wasn't quite sure at this point. That's why they're kind of grouped into different little things. Not really any specific, I wasn't doing a certain number of each letter. I have some Twisted Citron, Worn Lipstick, Mustard Seed, and Salty Ocean. Effectively a green, blue, yellow, and pink. Just as I said, it's going to be a nice, bright, fun card today. And I didn't want it to be gender specific, which means that someone can just grab it out of the stash and be good to go. I'm using a little foam brush, and I'm just going to quickly colour these. And by quickly, I mean there's no blending, there's no shading. I am just putting ink on them, and we're good to go. Now, you obviously don't have to have the mint tape as well. It's just a low tack tape. It comes in a 1-inch wide and a 4-inch wide, which means that you can use it for holding down your dies and things, or also holding down things whilst you colour them in. It does make cleanup nice and easy, but if you wanted to, you could honestly colour your cardstock first as well and then die cut out of it. It's completely up to you. So I decided to go with just 4 colours, and I was happy with that. Now, some of these letters, I wanted them to be popped up, but they felt a little bit fiddly for doing foam tape or foam dots or foam squares or anything. And so the logical point here is I'm just going to layer up each individual letter. So I take a letter, again, no rhyme or reason for this. You'll see soon that we are going to make a wreath out of these. And I just wanted some of them to be higher than others. So I don't pick any particular letters. I try and make sure I've got, something of each colour, but all I do is just have my glue ready to go, and then I'm just going to layer these up. Now, I found that 4 layers of cardstock gave a pretty dimensional look, in my opinion. So I just went through, and as I said, I did it with several letters. You could do this with slightly bigger letters too. You could do this with numbers. If you wanted to put like an age in the middle and then numbers all around the outside, I think that would look cool too. Any letters are going to work here. I mean, obviously you can do this with different items as well. You could do this with different coloured birds if you wanted to each their own, but I'm going with letters for today. Now, just to make life a little bit more simple and to keep things using a few less supplies, I am going to use the Happy Birthday word die as it was originally designed. So I have it die cut here out of some plain white cardstock. This is the 110-pound Frenchville brand that I use here in New Zealand. I can get this at Spotlight, and I know that you can get it at spotlight in Australia as well. It is a beautiful cardstock. To me, it compares to my Nina Solar White that I used to use with ink blending, die cutting, and water. All of those techniques, it definitely compares really, really well. Alcohol blending, alcohol markers, all those things, absolutely. I have a little bit of mint tape on the back of these letters to hold them in place once they're die cut whilst I colour them in. But actually I decided to colour the background and have white letters on top of the shadow layer instead. That just makes it easier later on. So then all I do is take a little bit of glue. You could also add a little bit of double-sided adhesive to the back of this before you die cut it. That would save you a step as well if you wanted to, but for this one I was all about the glue. You could also add some of your extra letters here to make this a bit more dimensional, the happy birthday as well, because we have some of those letters left over. Or you'll see later on what I end up doing is I actually ended up die cutting out the shadow layer of this several times and popping that up a little bit taller and making it dimensional that way. So there's always another way to do it. There is always another way to do everything. And so even when you see this gorgeous die, and this is kind of how it was intended to be used, I guess, then, you know, we can always change it up and use it in a different way. Now, just for a guide, I'm going to take one of my Hero Arts Infinity Circle dies. This is just for a guide because me trying to do a wreath, I will probably go wonky. You could just find a roll of tape or something to draw around. I'm literally doing nothing except for using this as a guide. You could cut out another piece of cardstock, anything, trace around a mug or something like that, or a bowl, just to give you a guide. Now, this is where I did the extra die cuts of the background there. I had some scrap papers to use up from making party invites for my daughter's birthday, and so I figured I may as well die cut from them. And so I stack those up, and I think I stack 4 to give it that little bit of dimension. But you could have done the letters as well. Either is good to go. And then I have a square card front here. This one is going to be 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then the card base itself is going to be 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then I just pop that in the center. I'm going to glue it down already because otherwise things will keep shifting around and I'm going to lose my sense of circle. And so I have to do all I can to try. I have to give myself all the help I can to, make sure I actually get it in a circle. Now, couple of options here. I could have done all of the H's like in one spot, and then moved around the wreath and done like all of the A's, all tangled in the A's, and then all the P's and then the P's. But I decided that I just wanted it completely random. I think if you look at the letters around the outside, it's pretty obvious that you can only see the H-A-P-P-Y. And so I was happy with it as is. So I was looking at it doing it this way, but actually I'm going to change plan and go the other way, because I just think them randomly all throughout the wreath is just as fun, and you completely still get what it says, or that it's the letters included. So as I said, I have the circle on there and I just pop it on and take it off every now and then. I'm going to start with all of the flat letters, and then I'll put the ones that have dimension on last. So these ones are all just plain one simple layer of cardstock. I have sped this up because this process took a minute, but it was quite nice, and I was just listening to a podcast at the same time, and so I was able to just, sort of merrily, happily put letters down. I'm somewhat aware of trying to space out the colours, and I'm a little bit aware of trying to not put too many of the same letter together, but honestly, we just pop them down. It's going to be okay. And, I just pop them in a pile and just keep going and going. And where I see a gap, where it naturally looks like it needs a gap or something a little bit empty, then I pop a letter in that space. And if you actually end up having some gaps that you're not sure about, pop a sequin in there. If you don't want to die cut more letters, pop a sequin, pop a gem, something like that, fill that space. It's okay. So this is not utterly perfect, but as I said, I'm going to add some gems and things, and we'll fix that soon. I am going to use the Twisted Citron, which is the color I chose to go for the background of the happy birthday in the center, the shadow. And I just thought that was a bit neutral and really nice. I can see this being given to anyone. And so I decided to add a foam matting layer around the edge using a little piece of the 1-inch mint tape. as I always say, there is always another way, and the other way would be to add an extra layer of cardstock underneath this as an actual matting layer. And the reason that I'd use the ink around the edges is just to reduce bulk, to reduce the heaviness of the card, the weight of the card, but honestly, either is good to go. Now, as I said, I put this down onto a 5 1/4 inch square card base, and then I decided to go a little bit extra. So I have a little bit of chunky iridescent glitter here, and I'm just going to pop this on the letters. Now, I'm not actually stressed about getting it on the letters because I'm going to add some glossy accents on top of this, but any glitter that has fallen, down, above it, below it, whatever, I will just shake it off once the glossy accents is dry. And so I put the glossy accents on, and then I also use the needle end of this just to really direct it and make sure I get it to the edge of each letter. I also use it to pop any little bubbles, and then here I pop some glue, and then I'm going to pop some of those larger iridescent they're kind of glitter, I guess, iridescent pieces, shards of glitter, I'm not sure what they're called, and I will pop some of those in just to give it that little extra layer of shine. This card certainly has colour, it certainly draws your eye in, but I do love a good bit of shine. It's a great element to add onto each card you create. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me today. What would you use to make your wreath? Would you use letters, numbers? What have you done before? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.